Today, we're going to look at some of the state championship contenders here in the North Carolina for public and private school. First, let's look at 4A public. Tyler, I'm going to let you run through some of the teams here there in the West.
Yeah, I think the teams in the West, they're probably the favorites to probably win the 4A state championship. They're loaded. Obviously, I'm going to start with Weddington. They won the 3A state championship last year. They're getting moved up this year to 4A. Gary Ellington does a tremendous job with Weddington. They're led by three senior leaders in Chase Lowe, Kyle Frazier, AJ Cook. Those three play so well together. They played with CC Elite, and they just have, very well good team chemistry out on the court. Evan Morton, he's coming into his role this year, has a big, he's played really well. The one thing that stands out to me is their leadership and how much fun they have on the court. And, Chase Lowe's leading them in every statistical category. He's averaging 17.8 points a game, 8.2 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 2.7 steals. And, he's leading the team in blocks too, at almost one a game. And right there shows you like how important he is on the court. And of course you have AJ Cook and Kyle Frazier who can absolutely shoot the cover off the ball. Chambers, they're another team. Coach Frazier's doing one heck of a job. They played the toughest schedule probably out of any of the public schools here in the state.
For sure.
From top to bottom on paper, the most talented team in the state, starting with Jalen Curry, who's a top 50 player nationally, one of the best point guards in the country, averaging 16.3 points a game and close to 9 assists. They're ultra talented. Daniel Sanford, he is extremely tough. South Carolina signee. He has the ability to impact the game in a variety of ways. He's such a good defender. And Piper's a great defender. And for their team, you have Nick Dorn, who came off the bench the last time I seen him against Carmel Christian. Came in, brought a really big piece. And down low, you have Mario Hansen, who's they're 5 big time players on that team. And the one thing I love about him is how tough and how scrappy they are every game I watch them, and they bring the juice every game. Third in the West is North Met. Coach Lewis, you can never count North Met out. You can't. Jordan Crawford, he's probably in contention for North Carolina Player of the Year, scoring the ball at a high level. You have Maxwell Coles, who's a great leader, Davian Cunningham, and then obviously one of the top sophomores in the state, and Isaiah Evans. A couple other teams before I let you get into the East that have a chance would be Audrey Kell. They went to the state championship game last year. You just never can count them out. They do a great job. Evan Smith does a good job running the show. Brock Rose, Tony does. They're really well rounded. They have a great group, and then just the talent of Myers Park and Grimsley as well. Just two teams that you can't count out.
Yeah, Myers Park played a really tough schedule as well. They've kind of gone through the gauntlet. That's probably another team that's been really battle tested. Their record might not necessarily reflect it, but they're definitely, obviously they have a winning record, but they have probably more losses than some other teams. But they've obviously played a lot more, higher ranked opponents and put themselves in a situation where they're preparing themselves for a state championship run. As we look at the East, I think the East is, a division that, there's a lot of really good teams, and I don't know if anyone's really separated themselves from the others. But here, let's look at a couple. You have Richmond, obviously, let's start with them. You have a guy like Paul McNeil, who's probably, one of the best college prospects in North Carolina, regardless of class. And his ability to really score the basketball and make plays. He's averaging 24 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. We talked about it before, but he's a Player of the Year candidate as an underclassman. He's special, right? And then you have two guards in JV and Drake, and he can really get downhill and make plays in the paint, and Wall as well. He can really get in there as well. And both of those two guys are really tough. They're scrappy. And you also have New Hanover out east. They're 17-0 right now, led by Mikael Pocknett. With his size, his versatility, he can really make plays in a variety of ways. And when you have a guy like that on your roster who can do different things, it puts yourself in a really good situation, and you can lean on him, especially during playoff runs when you need somebody to go get a bucket. He can go do that. You also have Jordan out of Durham. They're playing really well, 17-3. Clash Peters, the post player inside, he's really skilled. He's averaging nearly a double-double. You have the point guard, Dawson Edwards, who does a really good job of running the show. And then there's other teams. You have Cleveland, you have Holly Springs, you have Pine Forest out of Fayetteville that are all really good teams that have the chance to really make those runs. Cleveland, they're playing really well right now. They have a senior 6'6" Trey Fields. He's averaging 16 points, nearly 10 rebounds a game. You have a guy like that who can really affect the game on both ends of the floor. Holly Springs is very well coached. They're really deep. You watch them play, they're really fundamentally sound. You have a guy like Colin Cool in the post who can, he's athletic, he's skilled, he can really attack the basket strong and finish. And then you have a really athletic wing in Jordan Kearney. They're just a really fundamentally sound team, a really balanced team. I think they have a chance in that Raleigh area to really, be probably the best team out of that area this year. Then you also have Pine Forest. They're really good out of Fayetteville. So I mean, it's just one of those things where the East is kind of up for grabs, I think. But those are probably the top 6 teams that have a chance to make those runs. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they'll meet once the East and the West get down to it. We'll see how it goes. But I think it's a really good division. Obviously, it's stacked. It's loaded full of teams that are capable of winning it. And like you said, you talked about Weddington. They are the defending 3A state champs, right? And then you got Ardrey Kell that lost in the state championship, and you can't, count out Millbrook. They have some guys. Obviously, they lost a lot of upperclassmen from last year. They lost, and Silas Demery transferred out. But
speaking of Millbrook,
they still have guys who have been there, right? And that know what it takes to win games. So it's going to be a good one. Now let's look at the 4A private schools. The NCISAA, the 4A division, is stacked. You have some high-level teams. You have nationally ranked Greensboro Day. You have Carmel Christian that's playing extremely well this year. They're on kind of like a revenge tour, right? They were undefeated last year in North Carolina. They went to the state championship, and Cannon was able to pull off the upset. But they're playing really good basketball right now. They beat the Burlington School, a couple weeks ago. And they've played some really good teams. You also have Providence Day, Charlotte Latin, Cannon School. So you can't count any of those teams out. First off, I think it kind of starts with Greensboro Day and Carmel. I think those are kind of your 2 favorites, on paper. So let's just kind of look at those. Like, what do you think about, Carmel Christian?
Carmel Christian, as I said in the last episode, Cade Tyson, front runner for Play of the Year. I still think that he's having one of the best seasons I've seen here in a long time, and they're winning games. Coach Badgett puts them in great situations to excel on the court. He's averaging 24 points a game, 6 rebounds. And the one thing I love about Coach Badgett is him putting Julian Arias at point guard. He does such a good job running the show for that team. And then you still have threats like Logan Threat, who can come in the game and have a major impact. Caleb Seiler just picked up an East Tennessee State offer. He's a big body down low. And of course, Big Luke down there. He's played big all season long. And I think they still have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth from last year. I mean, they were the number 1 team all last year in the state. They beat so many good teams. And then when they get to the state championship, I mean, they lost to a very good Cannon team. Like, let's not think Cannon was not good. I mean, they're back to back. And we talk about Shea Roth all the time. Like, whenever you're coaching against, you never count him out. I mean, last year you lose Jaden Bradley. Like, come back, win a state championship. You come back, win a state championship. This year, you lose a kid who's committed to Duke, and Christian Reeves, who's having a heck of a year at Oak Hill. And honestly, they have 4 really good players in DJ Nix, Karan Boyd, Isaiah Henry, Austin Schwartz. And I think if those 4 get going, they have a chance to win it again. They could three-peat. And then I'll let you kind of touch up on Greensboro Day, Providence Day, and Latin, because I think Carmel and Cannon are 2 really good teams who obviously have a chance to win the state championship.
Yes, with Greensboro Day, obviously they've been the number 1 team all year in private school basketball. Nationally ranked, they knocked off Oak Hill. They went down to Florida. They beat Gil St. Bernard with Mackenzie Mbako, and then Nazir Cunningham, the number one 2024 player in the country, and the Mbako kids, top 5 in 2023. Because they were able to knock off them. They were, Freddie always does a really good job, right? He's probably one of the best coaches in high school basketball in the country ever, right?
Ever.
They're really fundamentally sound. They execute. And what they do so well is they guard. Like, they can really sit down in a stance, and they rotate really well. They force you to take tough shots all night long. They guard as a unit, and that's what makes them special. But also, you have really good players. You have 4 seniors that are committed to play Division I basketball. You're sitting there. You got Michael Zanoni, who can shoot the crap out of the ball, probably one of the best shooters in the country. You have Nick Graves, who's committed to Charlotte, and he's the point guard. He just runs the show. He's really fundamentally sound. He's just under control. He's never sped up. Then down low, you have Jackson Noble going to Navy, and you have CJ Collins going to Princeton. And CJ's a guy who's
most
just
improved
gotten
player.
so much better, probably the most improved player in the state over the last year. It's his growth over this the last 12 months has been unbelievable, and that's why he ultimately got the Princeton offer. He's a high academic kid, and he's going to go there, and he's getting better. He moves well. He uses his length. And then you can't forget about the junior Jaden Young, right? He's the difference maker, athletically, being able to make dynamic plays, downhill, finishing above the rim. I saw them recently against, Trinity Academy. He was out that game. Trinity played an incredible game, got the win, but, Jaden makes that difference. It's one of those things where Jaden's is so solid. He does a whole lot of different things. And sometimes you not necessarily forget about how impactful he is, but then when you watch a game and he's not out there, just the way Greensboro Day plays, they play such a good team basketball. But then when you see him not out there, you're like, man, he really is a difference maker for that team. And just what he's able to do on both sides of the court offensively, like I said, getting downhill, finishing above the rim, making plays. But on the defense end, like his athleticism, he's able to guard a lot of different positions. And then let's talk about Providence Day and Charlotte Latin. Both are unbelievably coached. They're the 2 best teams in arguably the best private school league in the state. They're in Charlotte. That league has Providence Day, Latin, Charlotte Christian, Cannon, Covenant Day,
just loaded.
Charlotte Country Day. It's a really stacked league. And Providence Day right now, they're 19-5 on the year. I think they're right there in that mix with Greensboro Day and Carmel, right? They have the players. You have a UNCG commit, Donovan Atwell, who has, he has a really smooth stroke. He can shoot it. You have Riley Allen's back down low, who can score over either shoulder, but he also can step out and knock down the perimeter jumper. And then you have Quave Props Allison at the point guard, who really sets the tone. And then you have Trey Horton on the wing, who can knock down shots and he can really guard. And then you have Charlotte Latin. I saw them play against one another the other night, and Coach Berger, he always does an unbelievable job. On paper, you look at it, and they're not always the team that sticks out like, wow, they're the most talented team in the state. With, the other teams obviously have more high-level Division I talent, but what they are able to do, they really execute their offensive sets. They take their time. They're deliberate in what they do, and they execute. And then on the other end, they lock in and they guard as a unit. And they're a team that they can beat anybody on a given night because they can shoot the ball and they guard and they stick to their principles. And then you talked about Cannon. Obviously them. They. Coach Roth. He's unbelievable with what he's able to do every year. They got some really good young pieces in Isaiah Henry and Austin Schwartz who are coming into his zone. They're healthy. Austin's back. He's healthy. You can see them making a run. But I think those are some of the teams.
Weddington down to the wire.
Say what?
I said they took Weddington down to the wire.
Yeah,
had a chance to beat them, and there's just so many good teams in that league. Both Coach Johnsons, Ron and Freddie. It's hard to bet against them.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's so good, and they've been so good for so long. And we talk about the teams being so good, but the 5 coaches that we kind of shouted out in the episode is they get a lot. They should get a lot of credit too. And I know they don't want the credit because they're going to give it all to their players, but they deserve it because they get the best out of their players year in, year out.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it. We went through 4A public and private. A lot of really good teams in both divisions. It's going to be an exciting time of the year as we get down to the state playoffs. On the next episode, we'll run through the teams in public and private on the 3A division. So it should be another good one. Talk to you soon.